This video is going to focus on one-step equations, and your goal by the end of this video is I can solve a one-step equation. First, let's start off with the review exercises. Try these on your own first by pausing the video, and then play the video when you're ready to check your answers. Directions. Solve each of the following. So first we have -2 plus 9, which is 7. Number 2, 2 minus 5. That's going to be a -3. And number 3, -3 minus a -4. Those two negative signs in the middle are going to click and change to a plus. So really we have -3 plus 4, which is equal to 1. When solving a one-step equation, the goal is to isolate the variable on one side of the equation. So the variable could be x, or it could be y, or it could be z, and we're trying to isolate so that the variable is the only thing that's on either the left side or the right side of the equal sign all by itself. And the way that we're going to do this is by using inverse operations. So adding and subtracting our inverse operations and multiplying and dividing our inverse operations. Alright, let's look at number 1. So we have 7 plus x equals 13. Well, we want to isolate the x right here so that it's the only thing on the left side of the equation. So I want to do the opposite operation so that 7 moves from the left side of the equation to the right side of the equation. And the two sides of the equation are separated by this equal sign right here. So the opposite of a positive 7 is doing a -7. So I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides of the equation. So 7 minus 7 is 0, which is why I can cross that out. I'm going to bring the x down, and then 13 minus 7 is 6. So my final answer is x equals 6. And the awesome thing about solving equations is you can always check your answer. So the way that you can check your answer is by taking x equals 6 and substituting that back in your equation. So let's try that out right now. 7 plus 6 is equal to 13, so I just substituted my x value, which was 6, back into the equation. 7 plus 6 is 13. So we have 13 equals 13, which tells me that we solved the equation correctly. Alright, let's try number 2 now. So here is my x value right here. So I want to keep that on the left side of the equal sign, and I want to move everything else over to the right side. So I want to move, so we have x minus 10 equals 13. So we want to move that -10 over to the other side, and the opposite operation of subtracting 10 is adding 10. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to first bring down my x. -10 plus 10 is 0, so I'm going to cross that out. Bring down the equal sign. 13 plus 10 is 23, so x is equal to 23. Now let's check our answer. I'm going to check my answer by substituting in 23 for x, so I have 23 minus 10 is equal to 13. 23 minus 10 is 13, so we get 13 equals 13, which means that we solved it correctly and that our answer is in fact 23. Okay, let's look at number 3. We have -5n equals 20. Now when we write negative 5n, that really means negative 5 times n. So what we want to do here is, how do we get rid of that negative 5? How do we separate it from our variable, which is n? How do we detach those two, that negative 5 and the n? And since we're doing negative 5 times n, the opposite operation is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by a negative 5. Now negative 5 divided by a negative 5 is a positive 1. So those cancel, and I'm left with n is equal to 20 divided by a negative 5 is a negative 4. Now let's check our answer. So I'm going to substitute negative 4 back in for my n value. So we have negative 5 times a negative 4 is equal to 20. Negative 5 times a negative 4 is 20, and we get 20 is equal to 20. So if both of the numbers on both sides of the equal sign are equal to each other, that means that you solved it correctly. Alright, number 4, last one, we have x divided by 4 is equal to negative 6. Well, the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we have to do the other side. So the opposite of dividing is multiplying, so I'm multiplying both sides of the equation by 4. Now 4 divided by 4 is equal to 1, so those 4's cancel, and we're left with 1x equals negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. Now let's check our answer. I'm going to substitute negative 24 into my equation for x. So negative 24 divided by 4 is equal to negative 6. And negative 24 divided by 4 is a negative 6. So we have negative 6 is equal to a negative 6. So we solved that correctly.